Grab your pre-workout and turn up that volume. It is time for a new episode of the Powerlifter's Den with your host, Cam Smith. What's up, Powerlifter's Den family? Want to rep the podcast and look good while doing it? Check out my official merch store at plden.company.site. We've got tees, hoodies, beanies, hats, and more, and gear that'll keep you motivated in and out of the gym. Every purchase helps support me and the podcast and keeps the den growing strong. So whether you're hitting a heavy squat session or just lounging in style, we've got you covered. Head to plden.company.site and grab your merch today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Powerlifter's Den. I'm your host, Cam Smith, and today I want to bring on Priyanka. We're going to talk about her journey from Raw into an injury into her best total to date and everything in between. So, Priyanka, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Priyanka Santiago. I started powerlifting in 2014. I was Raw. I stopped for a couple years because I had a baby. Came back, and now I'm in Equip Powerlifting. Is that...
Yeah, so just to get started, I like to get the background on everyone. So before you kind of stepped onto the platform in 2014, maybe tell us about what got you there in the first place.
Okay, so I was in the Army in 2012. That's when I joined. And believe it or not, I couldn't pass a PT test when I first joined. And I worked real hard on it. It was only push-ups, sit-ups, and running. And I remember at the time there was a group of kids or of dudes in my platoon that would always bitch about the standards between females and males and how women had to do less push-ups than men. And I remember it would just really grind my gears. And they worked out at the gym a lot. So I would see them and they were strong. And then I heard about powerlifting through the grapevine, and I made it. It just made me so mad to hear them talk shit about women not being strong. And then on the flip side, when you would see them at the gym and they would see a strong woman, they would be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's trying to get stronger." So I made it my life's mission to be stronger than them. And I think that I've accomplished that at this point. I don't even know where they are at this point, but
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was married before my husband currently. My first husband passed away on a motorcycle accident. But he was really into weightlifting. So I started going to the gym with him and I started getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I was like, I'm actually okay at this. And I Googled powerlifting federations, and there was an RPS meet nearby to us. It was in North Carolina. So I looked up their records at the time and I was like, oh, I could totally beat them. So then I went to that meet and I broke them. And at the time I had no idea. I thought I was wow, I'm the best in the world.
Yeah.
I think I squatted 240. I benched 135 and I think I pulled 300.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought I was the shit.
Yeah, I think it's funny kind of watching the evolution over the years. If you look back on your own career or just maybe a friend that's been doing it for a few years, and kind of when you first start, you're oh, I want to go for this regional record or this state record. And now once you're involved and you're hanging out with these top dogs, you're fuck a regional record. I want a world record. I want to be top 10 all time. I don't care about this random feds local record, but at the same time, it's still something to be proud of.
Yeah, I think I still hold RPS military records. But anyway, I eventually started looking at the rankings, right? And at the time it was called powerliftingrankings.com or something like that, but you had to pay to look at the rankings. They didn't have open powerlifting at the time. So I did that. And I remember I was in the 123-pound weight class at the time, and I went to that page and I found whoever the top person was at the time, and it was Susan Salazar. And I hired her coach because I was I want to be the best in the world. And yeah, that's kind of how that went.
Yeah, so from going into, obviously you started Raw, and most multiply does. From there, kind of once you decided to hop into a multiply meet, Maybe tell us about what inspired that.
Oh man. So I did my first 2 meets raw, and that was, like, back 2014, 2015, and my coach at the time was Gracie V, and she was an equipped powerlifter, and, like, to me, powerlifting was all about lifting the most weight as humanly possible, like, it didn't matter what I was wearing. So I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do this." I ordered my preds, I think I had an SDP and whatever suit at the time, and, like, I ordered all brand new from Inzer,
Yeah,
because I didn't have anybody to, switch with or to, like, borrow their gear. Um, and that was, like, my first, like, "Okay, I wanna do this," but then so my husband passed away in August of that year, and it was actually before my gear ever got there. Um, so, like, it had always been, like, a thing in my head, like, I wanna do this, so then when I came back, it was, like, 2022, and, I hired Laura, and I did my first meet with her was raw at the pro-am, and then after that, I was like, "Ah." Actually, I was on lifting large, and they sell, like, a single ply kit, like,
yeah,
with everything in it. So it's like I got that kit, and then I talked to Laura, and she was like, "Okay, yeah, like, this is a good idea." And then once I was in single ply, I was learning it. I actually went to go see because I didn't have anybody to train with. I went with Amber and Jimmy Kolb. Like I went to go see them, and they kind of taught me everything. And then I saw Andy Pope in Florida. Like I was just because I went to go visit my in-laws, but I was like, this is like not enough.
yeah,
Like I wanted to do more. Like if there could be another layer, I wanted it. So that's how I got into multiply. I never ended up doing my single ply meet. I just went straight into multiply, and my first goal, like I don't know why I'm like this. I know there's a lot of people like this, but my first goal I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my pro total and multiply on my first meet, and I did, and it was really hard. I like hit it on the number,
yeah.
like, on the fucking number, and I didn't have anything left in the tank, nothing.
Yeah, for me, it was that was my main like that and squatting 800 was my main goal, and I could not get the second bench in for the life of me. I was having the yips on bench, so that's when at Strength of Heroes I went for that ridiculous pull on the third attempt and
Yeah,
just got folded by it, and just because I was like, the difference between 1935 and like 1955 meant nothing to me. It was either 1935 or 2K, like go for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of what Chris did at this last meet
Yeah,
for me. Um, but yeah, we were so, and then I don't know. I'm trying to think what else. Like, I don't know.
talking about going from Laura, working with her.
Oh yeah, Laura was great. So like that was like another thing where it's like you kind of have to set your goals super high because like all of Laura's clients are like the best in the fucking world, and then you have Laura. Like like what am I living up to here? Like there, I just wanted to be like I didn't want to be another person on the like I wanted to be one of the people that was like higher up on her roster, but like knowing that I could never like truly because like there's no fucking way
Yeah.
that like I would ever there's Dina and then there's Leah and there's Taylor and there's Jordan and it's like all of these people, but those were the people that I had to look up to, and like I as long as I could keep chipping away, that was good enough for me, and it still is. I
Yeah.
like I have no aspirations of being a world record holder. Of course, like if that were to happen, it'd be cool, but like I don't try not to go into meets anymore, like thinking about what numbers I'm gonna hit.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way as you. Like I just obviously I'm starting with Skiba now, so everyone in that crew is fucking animals.
Yeah.
So and I mean, being in 275, that's like one of the toughest weight classes. So like I'm trying to be realistic and be like, yeah, I'll probably never hit an all-time world record, but at the same time, I'm still gunning for every single person. And I
Oh
think,
yeah.
but I also think I like your mindset of if you're worrying less going into a meet, you're probably going to perform a lot better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like I think also to like this last meet, I was definitely like, all right, I'm just gonna go in. Anything that I squat was gonna be a PR.
Yeah.
Anything that I bench was gonna be a PR. The deadlift, whatever. Like So I got a 5 pound PR, got a 5 pound PR, and I did. But like when I went like the WPO or the pro am before that, I remember going in and I wanted like for the pro am of 2023, I wanted to squat 600 pounds. Like that was the goal, but it just wasn't there. Like it might have been there, but like my mentality was not there. And like, you set yourself up for disappointment that way.
Yeah.
Um, and then for the WPO, and like people probably think I'm fucking crazy. So I was like, I never even squatted 600 pounds. I was like, all right, I'm gonna squat 7 at the WPO.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal. And then when I got on the stage, I took my opener at 606. I missed it. I got my second, but it was terrible. It was absolutely horrendous. So I scratched my third.
Yeah.
It just, and like that's not even close. You know what I mean? But like during that prep, I wasn't even like I didn't even like what I had hit at the WPO wasn't even what I like close to the numbers that I was hitting during the prep. But it just like goes to show that like whatever is there on me, like that's just what's there on me day. I didn't even cut weight. Like I had no excuse for it. It
Yeah.
just is what it is.
And I think that's something that with multiply kind of they always say, like they always told me, like, let's just get a total first because you never know it can go wrong. Like your squats could be money that day and then you can't touch or you forget how to press or
Yeah.
you're gassed because you hit two massive PRs and you're squat and bench and then you can't even pull your opener or just so much can go wrong or like your gear doesn't fit right or you're bloated. Like there's so many more things that can go wrong multiply. I mean, speaking of things that went wrong, I think we can kind of talk about your injury and kind of the road to recovery on that. So tell us about how that happened.
Oh man. So this is also at the WPO. There's like no videos out there of this, and I think that they cut it out of the street. But anyway, the WPO, I scratched my third. I didn't hit anything close to what I wanted to for my squat. So I was like, all right, I'm going to send bench. When I took my opener in training, I think I wanted to open at like 375, which is also stupid because like my bench before that, the most I ever did was 315. I ended up opening at like 345 or 335, something like that. And it was smoke. So we went up to 37. It would have been like 360. I don't think it was 370. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I did it and I got it off my chest, but like I don't know if I wasn't like into my lat, but I just kept going like this at the top. Like it just kept like I just couldn't get it like this. And I think I was under the weight for so long while I was doing this fucking weird thing that it just snapped.
Oof.
So I broke my radius. I actually didn't break
Ulna.
Yes. So I didn't break my ulna, which I guess like for everybody that I know, all the other women that I know that got this injury, they broke both. I don't know how that happened, but I was lucky because Kelly was there and she is a nurse. And she splinted up my arm with like this box. It was like a garbage, like a makeshift garbage. She splinted up my arm. Chanel was there who had also gone through the same injury, and she like at the same place at the WPO, and she like told me what hospital to go to. So it was me, Mags, and Dakota, and we all went to the hospital. It was terrible. But it was like being at the hospital was kind of funny because I was like kind of fucked up. But like I remember, like I don't do well with painkillers, so like on the way home, I was like, I remember we like pulled over into like we were trying to get my meds.
Mm-hmm.
We pulled over into like a Ruby Tuesdays, and there was like, families going out to like dinner, and I'm on the like in the parking lot puking on the floor with my broken arm.
Oh my god,
it was terrible. So yeah, that happened. And then I remember, so like I didn't get surgery at the hospital because I had to come back to New Jersey. And I get my health insurance through the VA. So it took 5 weeks between the time I broke my arm to the time I got my surgery.
Oh my God.
It was, yeah. So I remember I asked the surgeon afterwards, I was like, was it really bad? And he was like, it wasn't easy. I was because like the bones were like growing back together, but
Yeah.
just wrong. Um, ugh. So around that time, well, before that, was going to see Chris. So like for the WPO, I was under Laura. Laura was doing my program. She was coaching me, but I needed help. And
Yeah.
like for all the preps prior to that, like I was going to Hellbent to train, like or at least a squat.
Yeah.
Um, and then like eventually Chris like reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, when are you gonna come train?" I was like, "Thank you for asking because I would love to."
Yeah. Yeah.
So he helped me through the entire prep. So after I broke my arm, it was kind of just like I wasn't lifting, and it was like a natural transition because like he had already been helping me through everything, and he had eyes on me like during this recovery. Like he was able to see if something hurt. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of things that didn't feel right, so he could modify things on the fly, and that's when I started with Chris for real.
So from when you broke, or I guess when you got the surgery till, so when did you have the surgery?
December of 2023.
So
It
yes.
was like a year before the
Yep.
meet. Yeah, it was like exactly a year before.
Yeah. So I guess over that course of the year, I obviously getting back to it has obviously physical barriers, but as far as like the mental of trying to get back under some heavy weight, obviously, what was that like for you?
Oh God, it was hard, and it's still hard. Um, my grip strength isn't there anymore. Like there's this weird thing that like now when I like grasp onto something like really hard, like if you're holding a bench, it and you let go, it hurts really bad. It's not as bad as it used to be. And then like when you would go back into the bench and you would hit the like the safety, like that reverberation like goes down the metal in my arm.
Yeah.
So that was like awful. It still is kind of shitty. And like my grip strength isn't at all. Like there was for a long time I couldn't hold anything over 365 for a deadlift. Um Once I got back into benching, and it's still like not cool. I remember like and Chris like he God bless him because he has to deal with me complaining all the time. I was convinced that my other arm was gonna break through this prep. We switched into a bancher. So I was in poly when I broke my arm and then I went into the bancher because I thought that at least mentally, like and still that like that groove is just slightly it's different enough that I didn't have that fear.
Yeah.
Um but it was still so like the banter is still so hard. It's not like poly's hard, but I was used to it. My shirt isn't like super aggressive, my SDP or whatever. Um so I was super duper phenom.
Yep.
Yeah. It wasn't super tight. It was just easier for me to touch. With that shirt, with the band shirt, it's not. And like I didn't want to, you don't want to put so much weight on the bar that like you can't hold it,
Yeah.
It's like maybe you could press it, but your arms aren't used to it. And that was like a big fear of mine as well. So getting the bar down to the touch was like almost impossible. Like it always felt impossible. Like bellying up was like the biggest thing. And then I remember at the meet in December, um, my second attempt. So I took a token for my first attempt. And then my second attempt was 419, 418, something like that. And I don't even know what happened. I don't even have my bench videos, but I remember having to hold it at the top, because you have to.
Yeah.
But like it felt like a fucking eternity. And I started to freak out. Like there could have been a million other reasons why I was red lighted. I really, like you don't really know what happened because you're under, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're just like trying not to die at that time.
Exactly.
But I remember I was like, take it, like at the top because I was like, I don't want to hold it anymore. I was so scared. And then I ended up getting it on the third, but I was like so relieved that it was over. Um, yes. There's breaking my arm, like, it's not just, like, my arm so much anymore, it's like now I'm afraid of, like, breaking everything.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people in this sport go through when they break, like not just breaking something, but any sort of setbacks like that. When you kind of come back to it, it's always going to be in the back of your mind. And I think it's the not the drive, but the continuation to keep pushing through it is what sets people apart.
Yeah, yeah. But, like, I still feel like I'm a giant pussy, you know what I mean? I wanna be able to, like, yeah, I gave my like, give myself so much credit for it. Like, I am proud of myself for coming back, but, there is no doubt that I was a big baby. And, like, even if, like, you could ask Ryan, and definitely, like, Chrissy and Chris, but so, like, I remember one point, my other arm, you have your wrist wraps, right? And they're made out of Velcro, and like it doesn't just stay the way that it is. So I was benching, and then I hear like the Velcro pop,
Yep.
and I was like, "Oh, there goes my other arm."
Yeah.
So those are things that I'm still trying to get over.
Yeah, so I guess since that meet, obviously that went well, you're kind of, as the we like to say on the internet, are back. Maybe for next up, kind of what do you have lined up for the rest of the year? Or
So I'm doing I don't know why I did this, but I'm doing a strongman competition in April. It's at the gym that I work at, which is like local to me. Um, and like three of the five events are all group events, which whatever. But I'm signed up as novice because I've never touched any of those implements before. I did like a yoke walk the other day at Chris's, and man, it's not easy. It's like weird. It's like running with a cambered bar, you
yeah.
know. Um, and then the other event's like a farmer's carry, car deadlift. I don't know if I'm gonna be good at it, but whatever. I feel like I need, how there's like dips and valleys in powerlifting where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm coming up off of the bottom. So I need something that's like a change of pace, you know what I mean? That will keep me strong and and you know what I mean? Like I don't want it to be like I'm hammering powerlifting, powerlifting, powerlifting. 'Cause I'm the kind of person that gets bored with everything.
Yeah, and I think on a deeper level, I think that's something that, personally me, that's kind of why I did multiply, I guess, quote unquote, earlier than I would have expected myself to, because I want to be changing things up. That's why I went from multiply back to raw. I'm going back to multiply. I was thinking about maybe doing a 10K at some point. Like I want to keep it interesting from not burning out, because I love it so much that I want to stay in it for the next 30 years.
Yeah,
And if you just go raw, 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 you're going to be done in 10 years, or you just stick with one thing. If you don't change it up, especially with someone like me who's like OCD, ADHD as fuck, you have that hyper fixation. Once you burn out of that hyper fixation, you never go back to it.
exactly. Yeah, I'm the same exact. Like you could, I have got like 1,000 hobbies, and I don't do any of them anymore. Like I used to be like big on Rubik's cubes, and like I used to be do art, and I used to sell art, and once it fades, it fades. I'm trying to get back into art though. But yeah, I don't want that to happen to powerlifting. Like I love the people too much
Exactly.
where I'm like I don't want to leave, and then like I know if I were to just be like one of those people that shows up to the gym just to help, like Chris would never let me do that anyway. So like I have to not just like find the love again, but I have to keep the love that I have for it, or like the drive
Yeah.
to keep getting better.
Exactly, especially if when you're investing so much into it, if you're not necessarily hitting the numbers or the goals you're wanting to hit on the time frames you're setting yourself, that's when you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. So if you're like, all right, well, maybe I'm not going to be ready to do this year, so let's do something else to keep me occupied.
Yeah, yeah. So strongman is that. My other so I know that you had mentioned this on the podcast that you had with Amber, where you're like, remind me never to like train through the holidays again.
Yes.
That is me
Yep.
right now. I'm like, I can't do it because like I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Like and it goes like October is my son's birthday, and then it's Halloween, and then it's Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas. But it's like it's just nonstop. Like I can't do that again. So I was like thinking like what kind of meets are right before that all starts. And Shauna's meet is in September, which would be perfect.
Yeah.
And that gives me enough time to like, because I personally think I need to like relearn how to squat, how to bench. You know, like there's a lot of bad habits that I have accrued over the years from like having, like I started out in this is like a big tangent, but started out multiply by myself in my basement. Like I bought mono hooks for like the rogue rack that I had downstairs. Like I couldn't even stand wide enough in that rack. So like my feet are up against the thing. I have no spotters, obviously. And then once I started going to the gym and doing it, I had like nothing, like nobody to tell me what to do. So I watched Laura's lifts and I was so wide, like super wide, because that's how Laura lifted.
Yeah.
And then I remember I would send the videos to Laura and she was like, you know, you could bring your feet in a little bit. And I was like, no, not now. This is working for me. And like eventually I did do it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I have a lot of those habits I'm like picking the bar. Like you just have to stand up, right? But you don't. Like who knew it was so hard.
It's so funny that you say that because like that's one of those things that in multiply, it's like a lot of the time, if you can pick the weight, you can squat it. So some
Yeah.
people literally just can't get the weight. Like prime example I could think of is Charlie, like phenomenal squatter, but he was had a point where he was struggling to pick some weights that he was definitely able to do.
Yeah.
And there's so many small nuances that you can learn from other people. And that's why I guess we'll go into a little rant here on a deeper level. That's why you go to other gyms. That's why you train with other people. That's why you talk to other people. You don't
Mhm.
stay in your bubble, and staying in your bubble makes powerlifting not fun.
No, no, definitely not. And I have traveled. I'm well traveled when it comes because like I didn't have a crew for so long.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like at the meet in December, I couldn't I didn't even know what my last attempt was for squat, but I remember like I couldn't get the bar out of the rack. Like I tried to pick it and it got stuck. And then John was behind me and he's like, drop the rack. And they're like, it's as low as it goes. And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of like moved my feet in a little bit. And I was like, well, let's just give it a go. And it came out of the rack, but it was like, so obviously I did something different. Like I must have done it better, like
Yeah.
besides just moving my feet in a little bit because whatever. But I'm just not consistent enough. And that's something like a goal of mine is to be more consistent because like imagine like Chris always says that I do like everything is like brute strength with me. Like there's no technique. And he's right. Um so like I just like imagine what it would be like if I were to have some technique. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's why, kind of touching on what you said earlier, of like, you shouldn't really model what you do off of other lifters because everyone's different, and like some are way wider, some are more narrow. Like when I think of super wide, it's like yeah, like Laura squatted super wide, and then like Danny Tinajero squats pretty narrow in multiply compared to like most of the other people, but that's what works for him. He's one of the best
Yeah.
lifters of all time. Like if you model what you're doing after other people, it's probably not going to work out for you.
No, you got to find the sweet spot.
Yeah, and then I guess the raw comparative is like I actually literally said this at the gym last night. I was like, if you obviously John Hack's one of the greatest raw lifters of all time. If you were to try to model his technique, you are probably going to be out of the sport in less than 3 years.
Yeah, no. I look watch him squat. Like it's all the way up on his traps.
Yeah.
I'm like that looks crazy.
But on a back to the kind of community aspect of it, obviously, we have a lot of similar friends, and we're a bunch of goofballs who like to lift crazy weights. So, over the years, obviously, Laura and Chris and Critty are big influences in you. But who are some of the other people that have inspired you?
Oh my god. So, the first pro am that I did raw was when main event came out, right? And I was the that was the girl that they sponsored that year. Like they sent me to the pro am or whatever, which was fucking awesome. And like I owe like Amber, Leah, Tara, Allison a lot for that because like that really got me back into the sport.
Hmm.
Um, inspiration. So Susan Salazar is the reason why I lift conjugate, why I would ever gotten like she's a raw lifter, but that's why I got in. Like if you know do all those points, this makes no sense. So Susan Salazar was raw, but
Yep.
she was doing conjugate with Gracie, who was equipped,
Yep.
who trained with Laura.
Yep.
And then when I came back, I came to Laura, and you know what I mean? Like all of these things, like Susan led me here somehow. You know
Yeah,
what
it's
I
like
mean?
the 6 degrees of separation, but in powerlifting.
Thank you. That was what I couldn't think of. Um, and then like my second meet, I saw Janine Whitaker. Like I'll never. People have heard this story probably 1,000 times. Maybe no, like I'm sure, whatever.
Tell
But anyway,
it.
I saw her squat. It's like well into the 500s. I'd never seen anybody squat that much weight in my life. And like I think on her first attempt she broke a world record, and then she took her second and she missed it, but she still went up on her third and got it. I was like, "You're incredible!" Like just I could not fathom that somebody could have that much weight on their back. Like besides like Chris, Laura, and Ryan, I don't know. The community as a whole is what makes it special, right?
Yeah,
It's very different from raw, even though there's like raw people in this circle.
exactly.
Um,
Actually, to touch on that, I think that's why with the whole like raw versus equipped like segregation, I think it's so stupid because I'm still a raw lifter. I train with
mhm,
equipped people. I know people that are in equipped crews that are raw. Like just because you're a raw lifter doesn't mean you can't be part of a community. It doesn't mean you
yeah,
have to wear your singlet and your headphones and sit in a combo rack for 4 hours. You can go lift with your friends.
yeah. So at the gym that I work at now, it's like it's a powerlifting strongman type of thing, and like when I'm like, "Hey, do you need help?" or like, "Did you want me to go grab sides?" for people who are like taking big weight or weight that they're not sure of, like a lot of times they say no,
Yeah, like
which I
that's
think is crazy. Like I could just make sure that you don't get hurt.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree, and I think like this like circle, the equipped community, and the raw lifters within the equipped community, like I feel like they're very special. Um, like I don't know, like when I like look on Instagram or social media and you see like there's so much drama going on. I don't want to just say like, well, I guess it is mostly the raw community, but it's just they're like always talking shit about each other,
Yeah.
and I guess there's a fair amount of that here, right? I feel like there's a lot of competitiveness, especially among men,
Yeah,
right?
honestly, I think seeing both sides of it, it's definitely different in multiply versus raw. Like multiply, like yeah, it's like I'm gonna beat you, I'm gonna chip you on this squat or this stupid crazy like AR variation. I'm gonna throw an extra chip on there just because like fuck you. But in
Yeah,
and raw, it's like no, I want to see you miss this lift. I think that's what the
yeah,
separation is. And like prime example, like let's think about this. The best raw total of all time, Dan Bell. Guess who he
mhm,
trains with? Danny Tinajero,
yeah,
equipped lifters. Like it's if you're gonna model a community after anything, look at that one. Look at the
yeah,
other people who have the best totals in raw. They're still training with equip. Shane Haller,
mm,
one of the strongest guys. He's friends with Dan. He's friends with both of them. He has been in crews with raw people and equipped people. Like it, you learn a lot of things back and forth.
yeah. I agree, and I think that like what like an under this is so random, but like an underrated aspect of like lifting and multiply and then going back to raw, like
Your total goes up a
oh,
lot. I'll tell you that right now.
yes, that's what I was saying. Like there's it's people don't realize like that being able to prime your CMS for like lifting heavy things, like when you're doing it, multiply, single ply, whatever it is, and then you go back to doing raw, like you're not really afraid
Oh, yeah, no. You go to pick
to
a
pick
squat, you're
whatever.
like, "Oh, this is fucking easy." And, like,
Yeah, exactly.
what I can think of, like, I just hit, like, a 30-pound bench PR, and for me, that is a massive PR. Like, I was
Mhm.
stuck at, like, 345 for 3 years, so going from slowly chipping up to 360, then 363 to hitting 390 with maybe 400 in the tank, like, that obviously I trained and got stronger, but I did 6 months of equipped lifting. Like, there's no
Mhm.
way I didn't get carryover. So that's why I
Exactly.
hate when people like the gear does all the work.
Mm-mm. No way. No way. And, like, I think so the one you did the 2 years ago, you were in Strength of Heroes meet, right? You did the raw day?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was supposed to do that meet raw as a full power meet, but then I was like, "Fuck that," because Ryan was doing full power the next day, and he would be the one handling me, and I was like, "That's not cool, like, he
Yeah.
needs to chill." So I ended up doing bench only, but I into like, going into that meet prep, like, my best squat before that raw was 305. I don't know, whatever it was like low 300s. And then I was gonna open at like 425. And it wasn't like it was scary because like it's you don't have the same support. Like, you stand up and you're like, oh my God, like it's my hips feel a little bit funny, but
Yeah.
like that was gonna be my opener and that was huge. I don't know. That's like the stuff that people don't realize that you just like you have to push yourself
Hmm. And
and
I
prime your
think,
body for it.
yeah. And something that I think people need to learn too is finding that balance of pushing yourself but not being stupid. This came up the other day. The line between bravery and stupidity is a very fine line, and I think the prime example of people who teeter that is multiply lifters.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's me. Or that was me. It's not me anymore. I'm I'm very changed. This pat like breaking my arm definitely changed me. I'm a lot more cautious when it comes to these kind of things, and I'm like very happy to take the small wins, even if like there are bigger numbers there. I'm just like I'll save it for another day.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, before that, like for the WPO was like I was just so dumb. I think I was dumb, and I can't believe that like Margaret, for instance, like didn't tell me to shut the fuck up. Like, imagine like telling your friend like I squatted 580 at the pro am a couple months before, and then I go, "Hey, so I want to squat 700. That's the goal." And she was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, yeah, that's a good idea. Great." But I mean, that goes to show Margaret has like more faith in me than anybody that I
yeah, and
know.
I think people like that are um, what makes having a crew and like friends in the sport so good because some people are people that won't attempt things that other people think you're capable of, and vice versa. Sometimes you need to be reeled back. I'm definitely someone who needs to be reeled back. I set goals probably a little too high, and then I get delusional, and then we set myself up for disappointment. And then, but at the same time, there's people on the other end of the spectrum, and I think that's why having a coach is very important because they can kind of bring you back to reality. And I always say that everyone needs a coach. It's just whether that coach is your gas pedal or your brakes.
Yes. Yes, and Chris is really in tune with like not only is he like in tune with what you can and can't do, but he's also like like I'm different in the sense like where I'm like I'll stop like you're like, oh, I hit 540 on my max effort squat, like that's enough for me. He's like, what do you mean you have like six other jumps? I was like, all right, whatever. But he's like he'll like finesse it in a way that it's like, oh, like he doesn't do it so I get nervous, if that makes sense. Like and he's not like in your face, like, yeah, you can fucking do this, because like I'm not the kind of person that you know is motivated by that. Like he's just, I don't know, he's very in touch with how to handle me versus the rest of his lifters.
Yeah. And I know you said that kind of the winter meet was like one of the first meets where you had that full, I guess, crew handling experience. So maybe tell somebody, if somebody was listening that has never had that, um, tell them why it's important.
My God, it's like life changing, really. Like I can't believe that this is how people live.
Yeah.
Like I went to all these meets before. Not that I didn't have help. I did have help, but I was getting help from people that I didn't normally train with.
Hmm.
Um, my first the pro am meet, the first multiply pro am, I had one of my friends come out to specifically just to wrap my knees, and then Margaret, and then there was the hellbent crew. But like So Andrew was handling Jordan and Bobby was handling Denise, and like they helped me when they could, but it's one of those things where it's like, you're there to handle another person, and it's like I've handled before, and it's really fucking hard.
It's
It's
more
like
stressful than competing.
I agree, 100%. It's very fucking hard. So like I completely get that. And then like going into the WPO, I had Dakota, who I don't normally train with, and I had Mags, who I don't normally train with, come with me, and it was super helpful. But it's not the same.
Yep.
Like they don't see you all the time, and then having it was Chrissy, and John, and then me, Tom, and Jeff were competing, and they like ran that thing, like a well-oiled machine.
Yep.
Like they had everything, and like changing things on the fly. It was just like incredible to have. I didn't have to pick my attempts. Like I did, but I didn't. I remember I was like, I took my second squat and I was like, I can cut it here, right? And he's like, you can if you want, but I think you have another jump.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, you do whatever you want. And I wouldn't have picked 700 or 705. I would have like maybe taken like a 10-pound jump, but he saw that day, and it happened, and that I'm grateful for that because that was always like a huge goal. Yeah, it's like you don't even have to ask for help, like
Yep.
they just have everything going. They have your straps tightened, whatever.
Yeah, and like this past weekend when I was competing, like I was down by the platform, just sitting and waiting, and like Brittany was wrapping my knees, and I didn't have to go looking for them. I was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden I'd be fourth out, and John and Brittany would come over, and I didn't have my headphones in, didn't have to say a word, didn't even know what was. I had an idea what was on the bar because I had a game plan, but I didn't care if he moved it up or down because I trust in my handlers, and I think that's a huge thing is trusting your handlers because if you're there on your own, you maybe think you can go for a lift that you're not going to get, or maybe you think, oh, I'm tired, I'm not going to get this, I'm going to scratch it. So I guess, like for example, hit my 670 on the squat. I smoked that. We went for 7. Got a depth call. Not going to go into that much, but so we had to readjust the game plan. And
Yes.
I smoked my opener on bench, hit the 375 on my second, like nice. And then it was kind of like a coin toss whether we were going to go like 390 or go for the 400 because that was another one of my goals. But the main goal is 1700, so we went for the 390. And I think if we went 400, I might have missed it. But if I was there alone, I would have absolutely put in 400.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's how that works. And like I feel like before this, I was an overestimator of myself, and then after I broke my arm, I'm like a perpetual underestimator. I'm like, it's good enough.
Yeah.
So it's good to have somebody there that pushes you, and definitely good to have somebody there that could pull the brakes if you need it.
Yeah. And then as far as actual like meet day mechanics, when you have that crew with you, like I always say, if you were to rank like what parts of the meet are the most stressful, spotting and loading, obviously, that shit's exhausting. Very important, but very exhausting. Handling is second. That's you
Mhm.
have to worry about all the numbers and all if they're wrapped and all that, especially equipped. And then I say judging because you can make a bad call or you slip up or something like that. The easiest part of powerlifting is actually competing.
I know, and that's like another. It doesn't drive me crazy. Like I know people like get into their zones and shit like when they're lifting, but I just wish people were like, I don't want to say took it less seriously because like you have to respect the hustle. That people like obvious like if you I just wish people would smile more sometimes.
I know, yeah.
But and I like haven't had this issue in like forever where I felt like, oh, that person hates me, but like it hasn't been like that for a while, but I do get those vibes.
Yeah, and I think that's why something that I learned in football was don't be too serious. Like, yeah, focus, get hyped up, don't go crazy. It's the same thing in powerlifting. If you get too focused or too worried or start thinking about everything and or get super hyped up and take like 20 hits of smelling salts and have someone slap you across the face, like you're gonna miss the lift. But if you're focused and you're confident, I think confidence comes into play. If I think Okay, let me back up. I think the more aggression and hyped up and like focus, that whole like locked in, the more you try to do that, the less confident you are you're going to hit the lift. When you're standing around joking with people up next or sitting there getting your knees wrapped, cracking jokes and stuff, that's just pure confidence. That's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to go out there, I'm going to do the damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. Like, and I do think like, whatever works for people, honestly, because like I also just don't have it in my personality to be the kind of person that's like,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna do this and I'm the best in the fucking world. Um, I don't know, but I do admire it. I just like it could never be me.
Yeah. And I totally, like I said, I totally get sometimes you do need to hype yourself up. You might not be confident going into a lift, and that's okay, but do whatever it takes. Don't leave anything out there on the platform. Don't go out there and be like, "Oh, I missed it because I wasn't focused," or
Yeah.
but definitely don't go out there and say, "I missed it because I hyped myself up way too much and I couldn't see because someone slapped me across the face."
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, I feel like it's always like what's it called? Anticlimactic when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Um, but like there was something that I wanted to say about Chris in that regard. Oh, because so Chris like is this is so he's like amazing because he is a world record holder, whatever. He's super fucking strong, one of the best in the world. But like if you train with him, he's the most unserious fucking person ever,
Yep.
ever. Like you well like get under the bar and then he'll say something so fucking dumb and like you're I'm trying real hard to get into position and pick a spar, and then he'll like sit there and say something really stupid, and then you can see it in Chrissy's video. She just like kind of, like she's laughing. You like completely let go of that, but like even Chris, like the whole time he's just like they're being an idiot,
Yeah.
and I think that's what makes it super fun.
Yeah. I think on the less serious you can do and still get the caveat here is if everyone's still getting the work done, everyone's still focused and keeping people safe. If you can have a crew that does that, can be safe, efficient, and strong, but can joke around, you can't beat that.
Yeah, I agree. It makes me miss lifting with Ryan and Brian, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
like a whole nother beast.
Those two combined are fucking like rodeo clowns. It's awesome.
For real. Like it's one of those things that you can't even properly articulate. And you just have to experience it because it's like the most outlandish, off color shit.
Yeah.
They're just fucking crazy.
Well, I think so. The first time I met them was at Strength of Heroes 3. What was that, 3? And they were like, "Yeah, this is Gritty and this is Whopper." And I was like, "Okay, these dudes look funny already."
Yeah. Oh my god. I look back in those times. I'm like, how did we ever get anything done?
Yeah,
Or like we would.
exactly. But I think before we wrap things up, as far as like, I know you're looking forward to Strength of Heroes, but as far as maybe just some personal goals or some final words to say, what do you have?
Personal goals. Final words.
I know over here it says if Chris was answering, you want to squat 800, but
Oh yeah. It's like the first time I see him after that. He's like, okay, so you gotta squat 800, right? And I'm just like, do I have to? I mean, sure, yes, that'll be a goal, right? Eventually to do that. How soon that's going to happen, nobody knows. And that would definitely be something really cool to do because I think there's only 4 women who have done it. 4 or 5, right? There's Leah, Amber, Crystal Tate,
Becca,
and that's it, right?
I believe so.
Jordan will definitely do it.
Did Deanna
right?
do it yet?
I don't know. I want to look it up, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, we'll just, but either way, 800-pound squat for anyone is really impressive. So, but yeah, I think I'll ask you my final question before we wrap things up. If you could give a new lifter or someone going into their first meet a word of advice, what would you say?
Don't take it so seriously. Like, go in, have fun. Like, yeah, especially, and don't cut weight.
Yes, agreed.
That would be number 1. Besides, even before having fun, because you're not going to have fun if you're like worried about cutting weight. I did that for my first. It was terrible. I don't know why I did that. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like unless you're like already super like if you came from like a wrestling background, like an MMA background where you're like you know what you're doing, then whatever. But like I wouldn't recommend it. It takes away from the experience. Um, Go in, have fun, smile at people, make new friends. Because like really like besides just being fucking strong and cool, whatever, like the best part about powerlifting is the community. So like the more people that you meet, go to different gyms. You know, I guess that's not really going into a different like, you know, this is your first competition, but after that, you know, go around, train with different crews. Everybody has something to teach you, you
I-
know, like even people, you know, like that you might think are not as strong as you. But
Yep.
there's always something to learn from everybody.
I fully agree. Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much for everything.